I'll call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Folks, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask that if you are having a conversation, that you take it to a place where we're not having a meeting. Every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. We'd like to ask for a moment of silence this evening for our district to recognize the passing of Cheryl Squabble. Cheryl was a loved and valued member of the Madison West staff for over 30 years. Working as a clerical secretary, she cared deeply for West students and staff. Throughout her time at West, she served and supported numerous administrations and was involved and invested in the life of the school, illustrating her deep and unwavering commitment to West. Most treasured is the significant and lifelong impact Cheryl made on the thousands of students she came across. She was one of their biggest supporters inside and outside the classroom. Her passing has taken a significant toll on so many students and staff in the West High community. We remember them tonight. Please join me in participating in a moment of silence to honor her. Thank you. We have no public comment joining us online tonight. Board Vice President Pearson will read a summary of written comments submitted to the board today.
So a summary of the written registration submitted by noon, Friday, January 27th until 3 p.m. Through Monday reads as: two, in support of addressing Kennedy Elementary safety, leadership, and staff morale concerns. Thank you.
Our first in-person public comment is Del Underbach.
I'm hoping tonight's special education plan discussion will continue the line of critique and questioning starting at the last instructional work group session. These questions need to be addressed before this can be considered as a 3-year guideline for our special education service delivery. In June 2014, the Federal Office of Special Education changed the way it monitored special education programs in each state. I remember sitting at a Doyle table and listening to an overview of a new accountability system called Results-Driven Accountability, or RDA. DPI got this message and rallied stakeholders, including parents and educators. They looked at what we were doing and identified the area of reading as having the greatest need and leverage. They found reading was the lowest area of performance for our students with IEPs and held the greatest potential for positive outcomes. Wisconsin DPI repurposed RDA into Reading Drives Achievement, Success Through Literacy. All of this is documented in DPI's College and Career Ready IEP document. This is not new information. It was first published in 2016. Where in this special education plan is evidence we have responded to either RDA directive? No one has given us permission or license to turn a blind eye away from its guidance. Where in this plan do we respond to the disproportionate number of students with disabilities who are encouraged to accept a diploma without achieving proficient levels of literacy. Where in this plan do we acknowledge the disproportionate number of students with disabilities who are represented in our own PI 25 accountability data? How did our investments in the 2014 Futures Education and the 2020 West Ed Special Education Evaluation influence the drafting of this plan? What metrics quantify our promises of meaningful inclusion, anti-racist IEPs, and family engagement? How will we know if our children, staff, and families are thriving? How do we justify a 3% metric in our SMART goals focused on the fundamental basics of overrepresentation, inclusion, and academics? We are commissioned to serve students who are eligible for strength-based, self-determined, individualized education programs and deserve results-driven accountability. What do we say to the students who don't fit into our 3% metric? I have a question for each one of you to consider. How would you advise a graduate with a disability who is exiting without proficient levels of literacy after only 4 years of high school? What would you tell them to do? Where would you advise them to go? Too many questions yet to be answered. Thank you.
Jolyn Hosteth.
Hello, my name is Jolene Hirth, and I am a library media and technology specialist at Kennedy Elementary. Last week, I had some thoughts that came to mind that I wanted to share with you and with others that I have worked with. And so I wrote this last week on Tuesday. Tonight, I'm sitting here dreading tomorrow. I've been out sick the last 2 days due to a pretty bad cold. This afternoon, I tried laying down to take a nap, but my mind started swirling around all the things that are contributing to my mental health and the unease I've been feeling since September. In all honesty, I don't want to go back to school tomorrow. Every morning since mid-September, I have fought with myself to get in the car and drive to school. Every day I say, I don't want to go to school. My mom tells me, you have to, you're the teacher. I am filled with grief because I don't want to go to school. I'm filled with concern for my colleagues who look as defeated and unhappy as I feel. I have taught for over 20 years. It is a part of who I am, a calling that I have followed because it felt right, and I believe in our children. However, now it feels heavy and ominous. I walk into school each day, wondering if the kids and staff will be physically, emotionally, and mentally safe. I leave every day knowing that they are not. In my position as a library media and technology specialist, I see and hear more than people may realize. I move around the building so that I can provide technology support, deliver books that were placed on hold, and touch base with teachers. I see the work of excellent teachers who are doing their best to meet the needs of students with diverse backgrounds, needs, and trauma. I see them cry when they have no answers to what to do. I hear them question whether or not they can keep doing this. I hear them fight for what they feel is best for their students and not being able to find or receive the necessary support to give their children a fighting chance at success. As you know, this year, staffing has been a major issue. Our students are feeling this as well. I hear our students tell me that they feel bad for their teachers because they know that we're being overworked and because of some of the frustrations that they see in their own lives. They feel that they aren't always getting what they need because some students who are not getting the right support take all of their teachers' attention. I hear the students who come to me telling me about how they are being bullied, and I try to get them the services they need or the support that they need. We need, thank you.
Thank you. Susan C.C. Cohen.
Good evening. I'm Susan C.C. Cohen. I'm a retired teacher from MMSD. I'm here to amplify all the things that Jolyn just said and to remind you we need to have a collaborative effort to solve this kind of problem. The experts in this area are at each school. You need to talk to the teachers, listen to the teachers, understand the problems, and then work together to solve them. Most of the answers are already in the building. If you just talk to the teachers who are there, ask what they need, and then make the collaborative effort to make it work.
Andrea Miserali.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I'm here because I love Madison Public Schools. I'm here because we have a big sub shortage. We need to do some things we haven't done in the past and need to change it to building subs wanting to come in MMSD versus other Dane County school districts. We need to build in building subs at schools where they are so short and low on people filling their positions and having unfilled positions every day. I know there are a lot of elementary schools before the pandemic hit and all the bigger shortages happening that couldn't fill positions daily. To do so, we need building subs at about 10 elementary schools, one at every high school. So that way they can go and fill in for those spots. Those subs should have paid sick time off. They should be paid the same amount as a beginning teacher. Madison, $168 a day is the sub rate here in Madison. If you are working an 8-hour school day, that comes out to $21 an hour that our substitute teachers are making. It's just not enough. Some Prairie has a similar amount, except for their retired teachers make $100 extra a day. In Middleton, they make $187 a day subbing, plus on Mondays and Fridays, they pay more because it's tougher to find subs on those days. I know Verona's in around the same amount. We used to, when I first came out, I was a sub and I enjoyed it. I used to get paid sick day for however many certain days that I worked. We're sending them into schools where they're getting sick. We got a lot of germs out there. And then we're telling you, we won't pay you when you're sick and you're staying home because we don't give out any paid sick leave anymore to our subs. It has to change. Qualifying for benefits, you have to be a sub for over a year in our district and work 80% of the school days. We have to start changing things to make it appealing so they come here to MMSD, our subs. I know when we don't have subs in elementary schools, classes get split up to unheard of sizes. I know in a middle school, one day, every teacher but one had to give up a prep at our school to fill all of our sub opening positions and hours. We must do something to change. I also want to quickly bring up WeCan. We need to start posting our jobs, not just a link to our website on there. We no longer have 500 applicants per one position. That's a one-click shop where everyone else in our state goes as teachers to find a job. We have to adapt with time and go with it. That's where all the students and the out-of-state employees are directed to. We need to go and put our own 10-minute questionnaire because we need to get our schools fully staffed come August 25th or 26th when we all come back. Thanks.
Celebrating our community, read your heart out in the month of February. Schools across MMSD participate in the district's annual Read Your Heart Out event in celebration of National African American Parent Involvement Day. In 2023, it will be our 19th year participating in this cultural tradition with a kickoff event planned for Monday, February 13th at 10:30 a.m. Family members, community members, volunteers who identify as African American / Black, read books, recite poetry, or connect with students through visual or oral storytelling in classrooms. More information can be found on the MMSD website.
Val Phillips Memorial High School earned College Board Award. Earlier this month, Val Phillips Memorial High School earned the College Board's 2021-2022 AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award for expanding young women's access to the AP Computer Science Principles, AP CSP course.
Elementary school scholars show off their literacy skills in a poetry slam. Fourth grade scholars at Emerson Elementary School participated in the first ever poetry slam on January 19th. More than 50 scholars each read 2 original pieces, marked the culmination of the first module of the class's newly introduced EL education literacy curriculum. The event was organized by instructional coach and 4th grade teacher, Jessica Fitchman. Thank you for the name correction. Congratulations, scholars. As a fellow Emerson Eagle or an Emerson Eagle alumni, I'm very proud of y'all. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular board meeting dated December 19th, 2022. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 7-0. I'm sorry, Joanna, your advisory vote?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay. I'll turn it over for the superintendent's announcements.
I'm very pleased to say this afternoon we have with us Ms. Stanford Taylor, who's going to be coming forward as we're going to share a little bit about our much anticipated village builders and the impact that they're having. And I can't say enough about the work that Ms. Stanford Taylor is doing and how she's beginning to build those bridges within our community, putting our schools in the community and the communities in the schools. So Ms. Stanford Taylor, without any further ado,
Thank
please
you,
introduce our
Superintendent
village.
Jenkins.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am excited to be here. I want you to focus on the screen. These are your village builders. On December 5th, we had an opportunity to bring all of these people into the same space. This is the first time that we were able to see the fruits of our labor. So this is from concept to reality. Recall when we came to you and we had this idea for this project, and we talked about 55 positions, and the question was, where are you going to find these folks? Well, we don't have them all filled, but we have 50 of the 55 filled. And so I want to give thanks to you all for putting faith in us and supporting this idea. I want to thank Dr. Jenkins for his vision and having faith and moving forward with this and understanding that this could be a game changer for us. I want to thank the associates who we collaborated with, who gave us ideas of how to shape this with the number of positions that we were going to involve in the project. I also want to thank the principals because they embraced this and they made it work. So I am so proud of all of them. Can we give them a hand, please? Now, if we can go to the next slide, we have a breakdown for you. And we wanted you to have this because I would love to invite you all to go to these schools and see these folks in action. You have 4 community school resource coordinators, 9 family liaisons, and 33 village builder positions. And this is at the pre-K 5 level. and you can see which schools these folks are at. And we centered that around the community schools concept. We also identified schools that were targeted schools, ATSI and TSI schools. So this was a labor that was, many people were involved in doing this. So as testament to what's happening in our schools, and we've heard a lot, people have, especially principals, have reached out to us to tell us what a difference these positions have made in their schools. And so tonight, instead of me being the one voicing all of this, I have brought some of those people here with me, and here they sit. So we will go in this order. We will have Lowell Principal Ellen Franzone. Then you'll hear from Jeremiah Covington, who is Sandburg's new Community School Resource Coordinator, followed by Javante Walters and Micaiah Price, and they are two of our student engagement specialists. And then we'll follow that by a video. So I invite Ellen to the podium.
Hey, everybody. Shortly after the school year started, I reached out to Dr. Stanford Taylor and Dr. Jenkins to thank them for creating the Village Builder positions and for allocating village builders and a family liaison to Lowell. When we were given these positions, we immediately reached out to our community, our village, in order to fill them. We were intentional in our recruitment, reaching out to families and caregivers of Lowell students and inviting them in to sit down, talk about the possibilities, and see if the position would be the right fit. We have had the opportunity to hire 3 amazing women, all of whom are supporting our school improvement plan on a daily basis. Lisa Lawrence and Keita Thompson, our village builders, spend most of their time in 1st and 2nd grade classrooms, helping students stay engaged in the new literacy curriculum and cultivating their identities as learners. They join Shantae Hood, our family liaison, as they work with teachers and students to develop strong classroom communities. This has been especially significant for some 5th graders who are new to Lowell this year and who have appreciated the connection with a warm and trusted adult as they meet new classmates and learn new routines. Shantae has also partnered with our social worker to improve attendance, connect families with resources in the community, and share information about opportunities with Lowell families. These women are leaders on our staff already, co-facilitating mentoring circles with community partners, serving on our SBLT, reaching out to families in partnership, and planning events like Read Your Heart Out and our Black History Month celebration. It has been my pleasure and my privilege to have the chance to bring their skillfulness and wisdom into our school. Again, I am so grateful for the allocation of these positions, for the investment in people to serve in our classrooms, and for the chance to see what a difference a few people can make for our whole community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Covington. I come before you as a CSRC, or Community Schools Resource Coordinator, at Sandburg Elementary School, which is my home. It became my home about 6.5 years ago as I took over as the MSCR After School Director in the community of which I found has become more of a home than I've ever felt here in Madison. As someone who grew up here in Madison, my ties to the school district have been long. As a Black man in this role, it has awarded me some great opportunities of being able to connect with students who don't have mirrors of their own to see in their school building. It's not something that I have taken lightly in this role, which I took over in October, returning to Sandburg, of which I had stepped away to do better for my own household and family. As a parent of 2, it's really vital to me that I'm doing the best that I can, not only for my children, but for others as well. The significance that I felt of seeing myself and others in this role throughout the school district is one of which I cannot put into words. At a PD that we had about a month and a half ago, I saw many co-laborers of which I had shared hallways with, that I had shared training sessions with, and that I had shared schools with throughout my time, both as MSCR and a student. It is crazy to me to, again, look up here today and to see someone else that I shared a classroom space with as a graduate of East High School. The impact that our students feel by having leaders and staff that mirror them is one of which I feel every day. I make sure that myself and my staff are present and available for not only our students, but also our staff and our families. We were really intentional with the filling of our team. It took about 2.5 months to find a family liaison, just simply because our population at Sandburg is one that is very diverse, and we did not want to beat the status quo of filling a role just of filling it, but we wanted to make sure that families were heard. In the efforts of since bringing on that family liaison at Sandburg, it's been very powerful. The response that we have heard from families in making sure that their voices are the ones that we are advocating and hearing. We don't really try to push anything without seeking out the identities of what they would like, seeking out the events of which they want, and seeking out the resources of which they need. As someone who's worked in the Sandburg community, it is very vital to me that our students are given an opportunity of which I didn't see as an MSCR director. I take great privilege in an opportunity to speak before you just to let you know that this program will and does work. The youth of which I have partnered with and worked with, the stakeholders in the Sandburg community, and those of you who sit amongst us today really can speak to the testament, which is putting Black and brown bodies in a higher and a more intentional place, because the glue that we have been in these school districts as support staff, as SCAs, as BEAs, has kind of been gone by the wayside. And when we sat at that training, it was powerful to see people who have given decades of their service to the school district and have a better opportunity because of the Village Builder program. And I'm grateful to be able to share these thoughts with you all.
Hello, that's hard to follow. I'm Javante Walters. That's my cousin that just spoke up here. Proud man. But I'm in a new role currently at La Follette High School, SES, which is a student engagement specialist. And the question asked was like, what's my role in this opportunity meant to me, and how it's empowered the staff of color and students' eyes. And that's a hard question to answer because it's easily shown in the schools. You know, this role was exactly what I needed, what I wanted it to be. And someone that came from this district, that came from this community, I moved here when I was 9 years old from Gary, Indiana. And it's been an up and down roller coaster. I moved into Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, which when I was that age, it was not so Black. You guys understand what I'm saying? This role is, what I'm trying to do in this role is be the person that I needed when I was that age. I went through so many trials and tribulations and identity crisis when I didn't know who I was, who I wanted to be. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm trying to correct that by helping the community that we have now. I love the kids that I work with, and I had no direction until I got in the school district, was about 5 years ago. Started as a SEA, which is a very trying time in the district, my first year. But I moved into security, and they stopped looking at me so much as just somebody telling them what to do and somebody they can come to. And what we don't realize is that that's all our students of color really need. Somebody that ear, somebody to listen to. And if I had that, I think I could be sitting up there with you guys right now, And that's my goal. It's 33, I'm starting a little late, but I'm trying to get to that point in life. And the second question was, how do your pre-existing relationships with students and families in the community enhance your impact at La Follette? I'm a graduate of La Follette. The parents I know, they became parents when we were graduating high school. So it's very easy for me to transition that, that love that we have and that respect we have for each other. The kids respect me a lot more. They understand me. I also coach AAU and summer league basketball around the area, so my name is known. But now I actually have a platform to stand on. And at this point, I just need, I need more people behind me in the sense of the background that I came from and what I've done. And I just need more, to be honest, Black men of color, to show our Black and brown students are the most left behind at the state, in this current situation, to show that we can do something different. From the background I came from, I never thought I'll be standing in a place like this. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I hope I keep growing in this district.
Hello. This role and opportunity has meant so much to me and my peers because our previous roles only dealt with scholars when they was misbehaving or already in the red zone. This role has allowed them to see us as role models and trusted adults for kids. This role has encouraged me to start back going to school and finish my education. So when more opportunities to open up for leadership, I could be ready. It allowed me to get professional development from great leaders of color every Wednesday under Dr. Careless Sanford. It allowed me to see, it allowed me to see more African Americans with similar backgrounds that are succeeding here, right here in Dolly. It also has been more impactful than even in my own classroom. Being under Adam and Caroline Sanford Teller has humbled me so much. I have never seen them angry or upset. That even helps me to know that I can be taught and developed, but also loved at the same time. I feel like this role has helped me more easily connect with students because I'm coming in connected. Not to get a student in trouble like security or other roles. As a team of SEAs, we have been able to connect on personal and professional levels to support one another and improve one another. I finally have a team that I belong to. I feel free to use all my skills and ideas to help students in schools, but other positions has just limited me and dismissed me, but not this role. I believe in this role because we can help scholars process their emotions before they are in a crisis. We also coordinate with groups to allow them to talk about many real life subjects in safe spaces. Parents trust us. We are real community leaders. They respect us because they know we're going to support their kids and hold them to high expectations. Family know when we're being authentic and we're leading with love. Again, thank you for supporting this position. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience working under Sister Stanley Sanford.
So I get emotional when we talk about our babies and what we're doing to help our scholars become more successful. I think what you heard from all of the speakers is that relationships matter. A sense of belonging matters. And that's what we're trying to create for our kids. You heard them talk about mirrors and them being able to see themselves and them being able to go to a trusted adult. And for us to be able to help them be able to process and be ready for the academic environment. All of our kids don't come to school ready. We cannot dismiss them because they're not ready. We have to have plans and processes in place to allow them to be ready to access learning. So I thank all of our speakers for being here, for your heartfelt comments. We have a short little video that will show just a little bit more of our Village Builder project.
great mantra. Even when I was coming up, I've always heard it takes a village to raise our kids, and that's what we always gotta go back to. This is why all these roles are so extremely important now for our teachers, community resource coordinators, our village builders, SBA. It takes all of our work together to build our children up so they can go off these great things in our world.
The reason I chose the position is because I want to be what I did when I was in school. If I had a person of color, a person of a point person I can go to, that I can rely on, that I can count on in my daily struggle, my daily needs, and someone to talk to, I think I would have had a lot more success earlier in life than I did at this point. And I think it's very important for us to have a relationship with the kids in the community.
If my kids aren't handling their school responsibilities appropriately, the principal knew, hey, I call, she comes. It gets taken care of because education is going to be the way out for my kids at least. And so just being able to advocate for my own kids has allowed me that opportunity to advocate for others.
My name is Tia Wright, and we're at the high school on the southeast side of Madison. I'm student engagement specialist here at the bar, and also I have a dance team, well, shall I say, a major rec step team here at the bar.
When she come here, she accepts students for who they are and actually put her time and energy into making sure that we're okay and we have everything that we need as students, as females, as leaders, as everything. Like, it's not just about dancing, and that's what a lot of girls need in their life. Like, we need somebody that care more about us than they do about the job. Like, it's not just about the list or just about that. It really is our heart. And I love it.
It's my passion. They just need a little push, I'm here to push. So they graduate.
We are all in this, just the opportunity to see these students as ourselves and be like, hey, I've got this experience too. Let's connect. Or do you see how I'm using my experiences to benefit you? So I think it's a great position to have, and just to be able to connect as students are definitely motivation behind all of this. We want to help our children that look like us get you, you know? So the more of us that just keep praying, yes, I'm standing in the gap every single day for a Black and brown scholar to cheer them on as loud as I possibly can. So it can be done. Like I said, the city that I came from, I made it out of there. I know anything is possible. Thank you. And if I can just take a second to recognize my small but mighty team, Adam Clausen, Tamariel Grace, Cesar Sanchez. If you're here, please stand. Thank you, and thank you. And thank you to this board for supporting us and allowing us to dream and innovate. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for supporting us all the way through.
Thank you.
I have
Madam.
a question.
Yep. Yep. Just a second.
Sorry.
About the superintendent's announcement.
Yep. Madam Chair, members of the board, and to the community. Ms. Stanford Taylor has just been incredibly awesome in terms of coming back, in terms of adding to our team. But this team that she's assembled, you heard him, and Ms. Franzone really did not tell the whole story. What she has done at her school, her intentionality behind the people that she selected, the environment. When you walk in the front office, it's like Disney. When you see her people, they're like Disney. When you have someone like Javante, did you hear the name Javante in the building working as a leader? That means something to our students. When Vanessa Cruz spoke in Spanish last board meeting, that meant something to our students. When you see Jeremiah over there with the book drive, that means something to our students. Gigi, his partner in crime. Then when you see my kid working with the students, somebody hair looks just like mine. Not mine's my kid, you know. But the point is, we say we want to be unapologetic about Black and brown students. We say that goal 3 really matters to us. We have to work together as a community to ensure that the village builders continue to go on. I just want to say thank you to the board for believing in this. You approved, this is what you approved. We say we want to do something, now we're doing it. And I just wanted to have all of those presenters, please take a bow. This is your moment. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Jenkins. And now Board Member Vandermeulen wants to ask a question specific to the presentation we just saw.
First of all, I want to say congratulations. What you're doing is wonderful. Javante, as a La Follette basketball fan, I got to give you props there. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, I know it probably earned some enemies there. But what I wanted to say, my only challenge to you into this program is please also include Black and brown students with disabilities as mentors. It took me until I was in college to have T-shirts with visible disabilities. I never totally saw myself as an individual with disabilities. It was something I had to hide until I was in college because people didn't know what it meant. So that's my only critique is please move further and add more, not do less. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. Moving on, got reports that proceed. I'm sorry, Board Member Nichols.
I just cannot let that presentation go without saying something. Thank you all. Seriously. Carolyn Stanford Taylor, thank you so much for the vision, for taking a phrase that is so common in the Black community. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise our children. And to build out that strategy and to put the amazing folks that we heard from tonight in our schools with our students is amazing. And you all have like captured my heart. You've taken a combination of family liaison, community schools, student engagement, putting it right out there with our students. And this directly ties to our goal for our African-American children and youth to excel. So I just want to say thank you. I could not just let y'all walk out without saying deep, deep gratitude and appreciation for all the hard work you're doing. Thank you.
Joanna, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, it's just gonna be really short, but being a student at La Follette, I really thank you guys for doing this and doing this as your job day in and day out. Having students having like a person that they can connect to that looks like them or has personal connections to them, because it's kind of rare sometimes as a minority student to have staff members to look up to. So thank you so much for doing all of this, and I wish you guys the best of luck of continuing and growing the program. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. We'll now hear reports on items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on January 9th, 2023. Board Member Castro.
Hello, thank you. Our last instruction work group held on January 9th, 2023 included a health services update, a plan for our summer semester programming, including MSCR, summer semester, summer arts. We received an overview of the special education plan update, the recommendations from the ad hoc committee to rename Jefferson Middle School, and our next work group meeting will be held on February 6th, where we will discuss, an update on the middle school by literacy request for proposals, BEP semester 1 data review, and finally a plan for revisions to the middle school programming.
Thank you, Board Member Castro. We will now hear items that proceeded through the operation work group held on January 23rd, 2023. Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
Thank you, Board President Muldrow. For the meeting on January 23rd, we talked about the 2023 start of the budget development process for the 2023 school year. Ross highlighted the uncertainty of developing this budget this year due to us not being likely to have information on our revenue projection with the beginning of the 23-25 state biennial budget. So the planning will continue month by month as we know new information. We also received an update from our operations team on the RFP process for determining the transportation contract for the 2023-24 school year. We've narrowed those options down to 3 potential contractors and a recommendation including how this will assist with our long-term goals of aligning middle school start times, and a cost analysis will be coming back to the board in February. And that contract will be on the agenda for a February vote. Our next operations work group meeting will be Monday, February 13th. And we have a number of items on that agenda. It will be the 2023-24 budget development continuing. Any new information that we have, including staffing, will be part of that discussion. We will have a referendum projects update, a human resources update, and some feedback on renaming Jefferson Middle School. And then some background information for a vote at the end of the month on attachment detachment with Middleton Cross Plains School District and the Verona School District.
Thank you, Board Member Gomez Schmidt. We have no action items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on January 9th. Action items that proceeded through the operation work group held on January 23rd, 2023. I move to approve the summer school pay rate as set forth in the prepared documents for the regular Board of Education meeting.
Second.
Second, Board Member Pearson. Any discussion? Board Member Vandermeulen.
Instead of changing to $28, the guarantee of $28, and we're trying to get $40 a year. What I would like to do is to go no less than 20. My amendment statement will go no less than $28. But if there is a surplus, that $35 goes to teachers and $5 goes to SEA and others.
The motion needs a second. All right. Any other discussion?
Can I get that motion repeated to me because Board Member Vandermeulen's speaker was not?
I'm so sorry, Laura.
That's okay. But I
Apologize.
love to hear
May
what
I-
you said.
May I repeat that?
Absolutely.
I know the motion states, I would move that instead of the capping it at increasing the amount as a one-time payment for at least 28 an hour, and I know we want 48 hour if possible, that instead we would go to 35, we would state that we would go no lower than $28 with the amount of teacher pay to be capped at $35 with $5 being added to SEA and other staff that may be left over. The reason I do this motion is so, if I may explain the reason. The reason I do this motion is because without SEAs, in the summer, you do not have to provide a free appropriate public education on an IEP or individual education plan unless it is written as extended school year. That means the less SEAs, the less disabled students are able to attend summer school. This is an equity issue.
Board Member Simpkin, were you able to hear Nikki's proposed amendment?
I did hear it and I would like to second it so we can open it for discussion.
It is seconded and open for discussion. Board Member Pearson.
So I'm gonna look over to Ross. I just wanted to know like how much would that possibly entail? I don't know if you can in your mind. Okay. Okay, that was just
So I'm going to add myself to the deck, but I saw Board Member Nichols and Board Member Gomez Schmidt. Board Member Nichols.
Thank you. It seems like there's two parts in your motion that I just want to clarify.
Mhm.
One is around the language that would be replaced in the handbook, but I don't believe we're actually voting on handbook language tonight. So although you're making a statement about no less than 28, I think that was suggested handbook language for the future if we were to vote on this one-time summer school rate, I believe. Am I hearing that part of your motion correctly?
You are hearing that correctly. I was taking that from the materials that we had that was attached to the board docs today. It was attached stating that was what the reason for the summer school increase.
Okay. And then the second clarification, Nikki, and we did talk about this at the whatever operations work group, sorry.
Yeah, on the 27th.
Yeah, so we had actually started a conversation at the work group about what if the hourly rate was less than 40 and at 35. It's looked like it would be very competitive with the neighboring districts. We would actually be higher than most of the districts. But it did not, at that point, that was more looking at a potential cost savings. I think you are proposing that the whole $40 is still used. You're just wanting to split the 40 differently. Am I hearing that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay. And so I think my follow-up question, I don't know if anybody on this board knows this, but if we were to do a one summer $5 increase to our hourly staff, would that fit within the contract as a one-time measure? Or I guess I'm just trying to figure out if it's a feasible path forward.
I think that's a two-part question. One is for Ross, and he's indicated that at this point, he's not prepared to say what it'll cost financially. And the other is about the handbook, and that was not contemplated. Certainly, we can discuss it if there's a handbook implication. For all the specific groups, I don't know offhand which have handbook implications right now.
May I make a motion? May I withdraw my motion and make a motion to table the issue until we have all the information necessary?
Board Member Vandermeulen, we've opened your motion for discussion because it was seconded by Board
Okay,
Member
I'll
Simpkin.
just ignore that.
And so I want to give Board Member Gomez Schmidt the opportunity to participate in the discussion. I'll waive my comments on your motion if you want to withdraw the motion.
Actually, no, I will keep it.
Okay.
My question was just a clarification. If we're talking about going beyond, I mean, what I'm seeing in the proposal that came back to us from the administration after the work group meeting is a proposal for $40 an hour for teachers as a one-time measure for this coming summer school year. The changes to the handbook would happen later to address that up to, less than $28 an hour, but that's not what we're voting on tonight. My question is, and I think Cindy Green, I think you explained this in the work group meeting, and maybe you can clarify for us the difference in the way the pay for teachers works for the summer term and the way the pay works for our hourly staff. Because I think I understand that the hourly staff continue to get their hourly wage that they earn during the school year, but the teachers' contracts work differently. So they are moving to an hourly raise or wage just for that 6-week time. that's in addition to their regular salaries. And we want to make that competitive to make sure that we have enough teachers from our district who want to teach summer school instead of going and doing something else this summer. So that's a lot all rolled into one thing. But could you just clarify for us the difference between our hourly staff and our teaching staff for the summer?
Yes. So is this on?
Mhm.
Okay, just making sure. In the summertime, our hourly staff still receive the hourly rate that they get during the school year. So they're still getting their hourly rate. In summer school, for our teachers, in the past, they have gotten a rate that is most likely less than their contract rate or their hourly rate they get during the school year. Even at $40 an hour as the recommendation, that is less than the average teacher salary hourly wage during the school year. So there is a reason why we want to increase the teacher pay to not only make it competitive and attractive to recruit and keep our teachers working in the summer. It is also an opportunity to offer them something that is closer to their hourly wage. And again, hourly wage staff in the summer still get their hourly wage. Did I answer and
Yes.
clarify? Okay.
Yeah, you did. I appreciate that. And just again, wanted to highlight from the memo that you sent us that this is a one-time proposal of the $40 per hour for this summer school, specifically with the number of students we're able to serve and what the budget allows for this year.
Correct. This goes with no additive, no additions to the budget, working within the current summer school budget, half of which has already been approved through FY20 through 3, and we're working on that. And then the other half is being built into what will be next year's budget. And again, it's a one-time measure in order to attract more staff based on what we saw last summer. A different recommendation that will come forth at a different time is about changing our handbook language to not lock us into a singular rate of pay moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And then the last comment I'll just make is the reason you're bringing this forward today is so that you can then move, once we approve the budget, on staffing our summer school.
Hiring for summer school staff across the entire Dane County and other places is happening now. We cannot secure our programming for our students without knowing who will be in front of our students. At the secondary level, that matters much more because of the certification requirements at secondary. So we would like to begin hiring as soon as possible in order to ensure that we have a number of adults to serve the number of students we are sending out invitations to.
Thank you.
Board Member Simpkin, I see your hand. I'm gonna say my comments and then I'll call on you. I am not going to support Board Member Vandermeulen's amendment because I fully support paying people $40 an hour to participate as educators in summer school. I support this because I'm married to an educator and I know how much it costs for him to teach summer school. If you are the parent of small children, you have to put your own kids in daycare or camp in order to teach for us. And if you are not making a competitive wage, you're not making anything. You're basically, working for our district to be able to afford daycare. And so I think that $40 an hour is a competitive wage. I think that it is important to our scholars that we staff summer school in its entirety and that we make sure the students who want and need the opportunity to attend summer school have it. I think that last year, our inability to staff summer school fully had real consequences for our students. And I don't think we get to ignore that fact. And I don't think we get to do the same thing that we did last year and hope that it produces a different result. And so I will not be supporting the amendment and I will be supporting paying educators $40 an hour to teach summer school this summer. Board Member Simpkin.
Thank you. My question is for Ms. Green. I'm wondering how many SEAs and other assistants are required in order to fully staff the summer school session, and if we have any precedent around being able to find all of the staff that we need to provide supports to students with IEPs.
Board Member Simpkin, I do not know the number of SEAs offhand. I'm asking Ross to look it up. What I will say is I cannot tell you that, yes, we will have enough SEAs to support our students until we begin the hiring process. Last year, we had enough support staff for all of our schools and for our scholars. We actually kept on additional support staff beyond what we needed for the number of students because we had already gone through hiring them and we felt that it would just be a benefit to our students. So in the past, we have not had an issue with recruiting and or hiring support staff, and I don't believe that we will have that issue this year.
Okay, thank you.
Once I have that number, if there is a moment in time, I'll get it back to you. If not, I'll put it in a weekly update.
Thank you. Board Member Vandermeulen.
Yes, just want to make one tiny correction on language, and I know it was not intentional. I just want to get ableism out of our language. These are all our students, including our SEA and our special ed students. And the reason I include it and why I say it in that manner is because they may not be able to attend because of that solely based on a protected class, and I do worry about that. That is the only reason. I do not mean it as a criticism. I mean, this is a language correction, and I do that so that way we could have clear and proper language, because I think the best way to be an anti-racist in an anti-ableist school district is to call out practices when you see them. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. Further discussion? Johanna, your advisory vote on the amendment.
One question, sorry, is the amendment the one that was proposed by Board Member Vandermeulen?
Yes, it is.
I don't. Sorry.
No apologies.
No apology necessary. Thank you, Johanna. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails 1-6. I'm going to reread the original motion. I move to approve the summer school pay rate as set forth in prepared documents for the regular Board of Education meeting dated January 30th, 2023. Got it. I got it.
Yeah, I have the second, so.
Further discussion? Joanna, your advisory vote?
Yep, I support.
All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
6-1.
I'm sorry, 6-1. My apologies, Nikki. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the January 30th, 2023 regular school board meeting exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his, her, or their affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board. Second, Board Member Gomez Schmidt. Any separations?
Yes, I'd like to separate the HR report.
We're separating the HR report.
10-18.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? 10.9 and 10.11. And then what is the HR report? Thank you. Further separations or discussion? Joanna, your advisory vote?
Yep, I approve.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount of $80,000 for space rental at the Alliant Energy Center for AP exam administration using funding from the Assessment and Learning Support Department budget for the fiscal year of 2022-2023.
Second, Nichelle Nichols.
Thank you, Board Member Nichols. Any discussion?
Yes, I just have a question about this, this item. I noticed in the memo that our previous, I don't know who this is directed to, but I know that in our previous memo, we had paid roughly $32,000 to rent out the Alliant Energy Center. I saw in the memo that there was a change in their leadership and they're under a new mandate that they must come in with costs being neutral. And that has raised our rental fee up to $80,000. I guess my main question is, where is the extra $48,000 coming from? And do we believe that this $80,000 will be kind of the new fixed cost to rent out the Alliant Energy Center moving forward?
So the additional money is coming out of the assessment local budget still. So it's being absorbed within what their local budget already had. So it wasn't an add. The second is, as you had indicated, there is kind of a new process. The 80,000 is still kind of under the going rate, if you will. I don't know that we will continue this practice, and I don't know that we're going to have any other choice not to find a location such as the Alliant. We need the space. We need to bring all of our students together based on the volume of AP testing, based on the logistical organization of it. And there is no other location in the Madison area that we have found yet that can accommodate it. It is something that we are going to continue to look into, but for this year specifically, we did not have another location and we didn't want to miss out on those over 3,000 or 3,600 assessments and ensuring that they're taken and taken properly.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Just one follow-up. So when you
Yes.
say that the $48,000 is being absorbed in the assessment local budget,
Mhm.
were there dollars in the local assessment budget that were not used, or are we cutting something to cover this increased expense?
We made shifts within it based on, we didn't have to cut anything. Let me just answer that. And we just made shifts within our own kind of operating and spending to make sure that we were able to make it work within.
Further discussion? Joanna, your advisory vote?
Yes, I approve.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 7-0. I move that the Board of Education approve the contract amendment for the I-9 completion services with Equifax and increase PO 23001820 to $376,500. This is to be paid from the Human Resources Employment Office 2022-2023 budget.
Second, Board Member Nichols.
Thank you, Board Member Nichols. Discussion?
Yes. I also have a question that's budget related for this item. I believe this goes to our HR chief. I read the memo and I can see that this is like a 3-year contract. And I understand from the memo that we are paying more partly because we want Equifax to not do document verification for the I-9, as well as some of the other fingerprinting that they had already done.
Yes.
Okay. So again, we used the original amount for the 3-year contract was $205,500. you're wanting us to increase this to $376,500. I understand that it says it's coming from the HR local budget, but I'm curious, like, where is this money coming from? And are we thinking, similar to the last question, that this is going to be like the new going rate for us to do the fingerprinting, the I-9 document verification? Like, yeah, or is this just a one-time adjustment from what you know?
Good question. So what happened is we had a phenomenal year of hiring. And so we were going at Mach speed. So we spent in this 3-year contract, we went over what we had budgeted. So if you look at it, it was budgeted for $171,000 for each of the 3 years, but we're over that by almost $40,000, somewhere close to that. So that's why we're asking for more, because we've gone over what we're spending. So that's why we're asking for this adjustment. Because if you look at my report, we've hired over 1,100 teachers, and not including our SEAs and our other food service. So this is why we had to ask for an amendment to add more money to this.
Okay, so just as a follow-up, I mean, I'm going to vote to support this, but I just need to better understand because we're in a budget development process. Some of the hiring that we've done has been directly related to ESSER funds, right? A lot of kind of one-time positions. So I'm assuming because they were hired as employees, you still have to do the background checks, the fingerprinting and all of that. I guess I'm wondering, looking forward, once the ESSER funds end and we're having to do some strategic repositioning of positions, do you still anticipate that the costs will remain as high as this increase that you're asking for?
I would have to say that depends. That depends, because like you said, we created over 55, maybe 60 newer positions. So you're absolutely right on that, but we don't know as of yet because something could happen. We may hire more. I don't know yet, but I can't say that. But I know for now, we're going above and beyond.
Okay, thank you for that. And then lastly, is this a company that we would typically, did you get additional quotes or quotes from, like other competitors out there?
We did when we went with them to what we were looking for. They were the best that we had. So we did our due diligence in looking for other companies or requests for quotes. But they are so specialized.
Further discussion or questions? I see Board Member Pearson and then Board Member Gomes-Schmidt.
Thank you. So I just had a couple clarifying questions, similar in the lines of like budget. So it says here that the 3-year contract is $718,500 for a 3-year contract. Is that the contract that we're currently in?
Correct.
Okay. So if I divide that by 3 years, that gets us to $289 or $289,500 a year if we do an even year division, right? And we're saying that we're over right now just about 40,000, which gets us at $211,000. So really, based off of the 3-year contract that we're currently in, is there really a need to increase that amount at all?
Yes.
Okay. So the 300,000 that we're looking to add is to add to the $718,000 amount for the contract that we're currently in, or is this a new contract? I guess I'm not really connecting where this increase is really being added to.
I think I can help with this.
Yeah.
As that comes from the contracting office. So essentially what we're asking is that for this particular year, we've gone over in hiring by what we allocated for this year. And so next year, if we were to go over what we tried to allocate for next year, we'd come back and ask the board again for a vote to allow us to go over what was allocated. Because remember, each year, even though it's a multi-year contract, you vote on the specific amount for that contract for each year. And so we've already gone over what was asked or we assumed would be used for this year. And now we're looking and saying, hey, it looks like we're going to be over even more than the 40,000. We probably need to go ahead and add to what we've already asked for now, rather than getting in a situation where we end up having even more hires and haven't asked for enough, because we can't pay for what the board hasn't approved.
Right. Right. So then I would say then the difference for the approval of the 376,000, the difference between going over right now is 165,000. I'm just asking, like, will that be too much, or is that like, how enough is that in a sense of how what we've already done in the vein of what Nichelle mentioned, just about a lot of our positions right now were ESSER, which, you know, we might need to figure out that later. So is it really needed that we have to go over that much?
Well, I think if we look at it, that's from July 1st to now. And so we're trying to extrapolate and say from January till the end of June, how much we're going to use.
Okay.
If we don't use it, it's fine. We just don't spend it.
Okay.
But we're just asking now so that we don't get in a situation where our work comes to a halt because we haven't asked the board for approval.
And that was going to be my next question of, like, the funding, if it's not used, then does that get reallocated, or how do we hold it until maybe next year, or what?
No, it's reallocated.
Okay. So then my last question is just the 300,000 is not added to the contract for the 3 year. It's just what we're just increasing the limit at the time.
We're increasing the limit this year. Next year, probably sometime before July 1st, another contract will come before the board.
Okay. So we're at like the 3rd year of our contract
Mhm.
currently.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
Thank you. My question was just about if investing in this reduces the amount of work required for that I-9 completion within our own HR office, or if it's just the consolidation with Equifax and the field.
So this makes it a lot easier, makes it automated so that it's all in one fell swoop. So they go to one spot, get their fingerprints, their background check, all that done in one stop, in one place.
That seems like it'll make it easier for hiring and getting people.
Oh, it's
in
been
the door.
amazing. It's been amazing, but we were just going so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I was just wondering if that frees up our staff in HR to be doing other things rather than
Absolutely.
trying to coordinate all of these pieces.
Absolutely, because otherwise it would have been like 3 or 4 separate appointments for each hire that we did.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks.
Further questions or discussion? Joanna, your advisory vote.
Yes, I approve.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 1. Motion carries 6-1. I move that the Board of Education approve the January 2023 Human Resources Transaction Report, items 1 through 19.
Second.
Any discussion?
That was the second in discussion. I'm sorry. I was trying to do 8 million things, including the math from the other one. And Maya, you're a genius at how well you do figures in your head. I can't do that. The reason I brought up the HR report is because I'm starting to worry about hearing things about how long it takes to hire teachers. I'm thrilled that we're getting village builders. No complaints on that. I am worried on how we're getting the ability to handle those on top of not being able to include our teachers. I've talked to some people who have applied who it's taken up to 8 months for them to get onboarded. I have talked to other individuals at other schools
where people took maternity leave, tried to find a sub, and it took so long that they were back from maternity leave before it was figured out. Those things concern me. So my questions are as follows, and bear with me because, face it, I'm not the most organized. And that is, how are we encouraging our subs, which we do have a sub crisis due to the teacher exodus? How are we making sure that our subs are able to find that our jobs exist? For example, why do we not list them on weekend? Why do we only list our website? Is there a way we can do a questionnaire? Those are my first 3 questions, and then I have 3 more.
So we do advertise on the weekend, but one of the things that we do, as it was stated earlier, is that we put the job description on weekend and then we put the link to Cornerstone because that is our application tracking system. So that's what we go to. So a lot of school districts do it that way too, is they put the job description on weekend and then give them a link that directs them to our webpage.
And there's a way we can update it so that way more people can see it. Is there a way to do that?
On weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, you give the delineation of what the job is. So it depends on what the job is the category that they go under and they look for the position. So in weekend, you can put school districts, you can put location, you can do it that way as well. And you can do county as well too.
And how are we ensuring our substitutes have the skills we need? I mean, I'm hearing like in one class, there weren't French, the Spanish sub didn't speak Spanish or the French sub didn't speak French. I've heard those both in the past year. How do we make sure?
Are you talking about for the subs?
Yes.
It depends. So I'll say it this way. It depends on the need of the sub and it depends on how late it is because some subs may pick up an assignment very late. So sometimes they'll just say, I need a sub, and it won't necessarily be the sub who speaks Spanish for the Spanish class, but sometimes they do just put a sub in that position as long as they have the criteria for subbing, whether it's permit or not. So it just depends.
Can I ask, how do you have a Spanish sub teach Spanish if they don't speak Spanish?
It depends. Like I said, it depends on the time frame. So they don't do that very often. So that might be a one-off. They don't do it as much, but it depends on if it's a last-minute placement.
Additionally, how are we prioritizing hiring our education support staff and our substitute teachers? I know we did an entire plan and the staffing plan. How far are we on that in the recruiting of different and new staff?
For
our teachers, where we heard people speak today about how there were not enough subs, how there were not enough staff at the elementary schools and that they need a sub at least 10 elementary schools. How is that? How are we working on that? Are we working on that?
Board Member Vandermeul, and I think when you look at the Thursday's report, there was an update in terms of HR. That's one. And then 2 is we'll continue to have conversation that right now we're down to about 88 in staff that we still need in our district, which is significantly down. And we know that those are cross-categorical teachers, some of our DLI teachers and things like this. This is all in the Thursday report, but we can have more discussion about it a little bit later. I just think tonight for this, it may not be the best place for us to continue to talk about it, but it is in the Thursday report as well.
I have to respectfully disagree. We just voted not to increase summer school pay for SEAs, and now we can't discuss HR. We need to discuss these things publicly to make sure that people know what they're getting, not in a report that someone may not see.
Yeah, well, if you want to go ahead and discuss it, we can discuss it because it's in the Thursday report. I'll just repeat exactly what's there. Even tonight, some of the comments that were made in terms of the number of staffing, and that was something also in terms of proposed to have full-time subs at the other buildings. That's something that we would have to come back and have a discussion with you all. That's something that we have a discussion right now amongst ourselves as we're looking at the strategic budgetary realignment. That was just a comment made that we have not necessarily addressed. That's the part that I'm talking about. Anything else on it, I'd be more than happy to provide.
Just have one more question. What is our strategy for encouraging? I'm hearing a lot on mental health from our teachers. And our subs and the lack of subs. What is our strategy for attracting subs so our teachers can take mental health days?
For mental, so to attract subs.
Yes.
So let me just give you some numbers of the subs that we have. So right now we have 569 subs, and of those 569, 448 are currently accepting assignments. So right now we have, if you go back from July 2022 to January 2023, we've collected over, or received, I should say, 349 applications, new applications. And so out of those, we've hired from, again, July 2022 to January 2023, 233 substitutes. But also, I will say that in, I think, last month's meeting, we talked about Cultural Vista to hire more bilingual teachers as well. So we are trying to do due diligence to make sure that we have enough subs. And of that, in my report, if you looked last week, I kind of put in there, I think the question came up from the board regarding how many of those subs on the list get hired. And if I'm not mistaken, in my report, I put 83 went from substitute to full-time positions, whether it was SEA or a teacher. So we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we are hiring. And part of that goes back to the Equifax, because we are doing in high volume right now.
I have just one extra question, if I may, and it's just one, and that is, with our staff and the number of vacancies that we have, how long on average does it take to fill a vacancy?
I would have to get back to you on that, but we are looking into that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Tracy.
Good questions. Thank you.
Ms. Carradine, I have 3 questions for you. And I'm hoping that the answer to these questions are specific numbers. So in looking at our HR report and our numbers of vacancies, it looks like our numbers of vacancies continue to decline. So I want to thank you for the work that you're doing to get teachers in front of our young people. One of our strategies over the course of the pandemic has been to have central office staff act as substitute teachers. How many central office staff are currently being required to substitute teach on a regular basis?
I personally can't answer that question. I'll have to ask some people. So Cindy and Kurt Rose can help me with that, because this is a collaborative effort that we, HR, along with the Associate Soup's office and Dr. McGregory and Ms. Green, we work for the central office substitute. So
I know. I would imagine, though, since we've been doing this for a while, there's somebody keeping track of who all's being required to do it, right?
yes,
Okay.
but that person is not me.
Fair enough. I'm like, it's nice to get pointed in the right direction.
And this is Kurt Rose.
Good evening, you all. I do not have the exact number, but that it is being recorded right now. The central office staff have the ability to volunteer for the days that they would like to sub. And then we are tracking that in an Excel document by tab per day. So I can get the exact number for you, but at this current moment, no, I do not have the exact number of how many of them.
If you can provide the exact number for me, I would greatly appreciate that. Because I think when we're thinking of who all is subbing and the regularity in which we're able to fill positions, knowing that we have those additional folks who are not subs, but our central office staff is relevant. The other question I want to ask you specifically about those folks is, many of those folks have backgrounds in education that are specific. So similar to the question Nikki asked, there's somebody at central office who speaks French and we have a vacancy where for a French teacher, are we making sure that we're aligning our central office staff and their skills with the needs of our schools?
That's a great question. So the way that we've been handling it, we have our office that is taking a look at where the sub needs are coming in and then moving those that have volunteered for those days to those places. As far as matching them directly to, like, if you have a French background to the French piece, I'm not sure that that has technically been taking place because the amount of individuals per day it is a very small number. So typically what we're looking to do is move those individuals to the most high need school that has the most vacancies or sub needs for that particular day. And then we're moving those that have volunteered to move into that space and then provide support. So if we had a bigger pool of individuals to say, hey, oh, you have a background in French or you have a background in science, we could do more of that, more skilled push and move. But right now it's more so of making sure that those individuals are in the building to supervise the students in place.
I asked that question because I heard earlier this year from a student who said, you know, I have a substitute in my math class consistently who doesn't teach math. And so I'm really struggling with math because the teacher I have during my math class doesn't know any more about how to do this than I do. And so I think linking central office staff to who have skills in specific areas to that area in schools could help us to address some of that issue if we're using those folks strategically. So I want to bring that to your attention. My other question, which is, you know, specific to central office staff who are being asked or volunteering to sub, is of the central office staff who have been asked, required, volunteered to sub, what percentage of those staff have left the district?
So I did take a look at the exit interviews, and I think I put that in my report last week. So we did have one that mentioned they resigned because they had to substitute plus do their own work, but it did not delineate if they were a central office staff. So I'm not sure if it was a central office staff member or if it was a school staff member. But there was one mention of that specific.
But I would say this isn't, my question isn't necessarily based on exit interviews. My question would be, if you looked at everybody who's been required to sub throughout the time period we've been doing that, who is still with us and who has exited the district? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and I wouldn't be able to tally that number.
Yeah, I could tell you for sure that I've talked to some staff who have exited because they had to sub too. And I talked to some, they actually came and talked to me just before they did decide to take another job. It's very tough. Let me just say that. Individuals working their job and having to go sub. It's tough on some of the administrators who are also in the buildings, who are subbing in the buildings. This is a part of a crisis we continue to talk about. There is a shortage in teachers, and not just teachers coming out, but then teachers who are exiting the field because it is burdensome. It is tough. I agree with some of the comments made earlier about the mental health piece right now, trying to just teach a regular class. And then when they're having to cover over, I do see things, as you said, you see the HR report getting better, but during this time of the year, we're hoping that some graduated and some staff have graduated here recently and that some are feeling better about being in the field, but we're still emerging from where we were in terms of how people feel, and the social emotional piece is still pretty big. So I would just say to you, yes, I want to make sure I put that out in the space. People have left, be it central office or teachers, because they're having to sub. And then they go in another district and then they're having to sub over there too. Because actually I ran into one out for dinner and they told me they had to sub in the other district that they left and went to as well. So it's a fact.
I appreciate that. And I guess what I'm curious about is if we're seeing any trend or any long-term strain given the amount of time we've been doing this. So my other question about that is how long do we plan to continue to use central office staff as subs?
Well, I can say this, we're out recruiting already for next year. And we have several things lined up now. We're going down in February, trying to recruit to as well. And our goal is that we could be staffed. We know now that we're staffed at a higher percentage than what we were when we were right in the thick of the pandemic. I think the last report, Thursday report, said about 89%, something like that. And we're trying
When you
to,
say 89%, are you referring to our fill rate?
yeah, in terms of our fill rate, thank you. But in terms of just knowing that we're going to have to continue to be at it in terms of looking even towards next year, and we're hoping this year we can continue to move forward out in the buildings, things all over. You know, it's much better this year than what it was last year, but it's still not ideal for what we wanted to be at the level of excellence for sure. But that's something we have to continue to work on right now. We're trying to get ahead of the early hiring piece. We're going to be doing that again, the early signing, trying to take the student teachers that we have in our district right now. We've been talking to a number of them about signing. And when I'm in the building, I will say there are a number of student teachers who are excited and want to be in the district as well. So we're looking forward to doing that as we move forward. But it's a number of things. We're not out of the woods, and it's still right now in education, keeping people in the field. I'm finding that retention, like we've hired all of these people, Jorge, all of our team, we talk about how we're going to retain the people that we did just hire, because it is an employee's market right now. And that's why it's going to be very important for us to invest in our staff moving forward. That's just, it has to be number one. We learned that too during the pandemic. You have to have your staff.
Dr. Jenkins, I'm very grateful for your leadership and your consideration of my questions. I think the hard thing about the way you just spoke to my question is it doesn't necessarily signal that we have a clear sense of how long we will need to continue to utilize central office staff. And so my request then is that if we continue this practice, that we do so strategically and we do so in a way that stabilizes our school to the greatest possible extent. I also think that we do so in a way that takes advantage of the skills that our central office staff have in the classroom, so that when students have a sub from central office, they have a sub that is qualified to teach the area that they are studying. And I know that that's easier said than done. Okay, I acknowledge that wholeheartedly. But I do think that were we to really sit down with this and think, how do we improve this strategy? I think there's areas in which we can better serve our young people. That being said, I see Board Member Simpkin and then Board Member Pearson.
Thank you. I am really appreciating the opportunity to have this conversation right now because of the amount of stress it puts on our school staff and our administrators to have positions unfilled. And so I have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm looking for a little bit of clarity. I happened to be reading the Cap Times online before the meeting today, and there's a quote in there from Tim Lamont saying that currently MMSD employs its largest teacher workforce since 2017 and with fewer students. And so I'm curious who can speak to how our teachers are being distributed among our schools and why we are feeling this level of stress if we have the largest teacher workforce since 2017.
I could just tell in terms of why the decisions were made in 2017. I can't necessarily speak to that, how we're resourced just in Madison, but I could tell you across the country, a number of things have happened differently. And when we're looking at even how we have the ESSER dollars, how we're using them as well. We've added staff, which you heard that a little bit earlier, but these times stress in education, it's been coming on, but the pandemic, everyone wants to say we're out of the pandemic. We're not. We're emerging out of the pandemic. And our staff in all positions have gone through some incredible times, and they're feeling the social emotional piece of it. But when we're looking at staff and resources, even prior to my coming, as I looked at the budgets, there were strategic decisions that made in terms of trying to make sure we follow the board policy in terms of class size. And sometimes, excuse me, Mr. Hodo, I do think I'm gonna need that water. Thank you. I had down there. But I'm losing my voice here. Excuse me, everyone. But I think in terms of how we go about making those decisions at the building, when we take the board policy, first of all, and we begin to assign our staff as we do, there's a policy around that. And then there are some additional things you heard Board Member Vandermeulen mentioned earlier too, that we have services that we have to deliver for some of our other students who need those services. It may be a staff and things, but it's very complicated in the different ways. And I'll ask Cindy if you have some additional thoughts on that. But in terms of more staff now, that is something that everyone is looking at with fewer students. And as we do the strategic budgetary realignment, we're trying to see how much staff we have outside of the classroom. The classroom should be appropriately staffed, but how much do we have as a district our size outside of the classroom? So that's a very good question that you pose it, Board Member Simkin.
I will add a little to what Dr. Jenkins said, and I wanted to go back and add a couple clarifying components to what Board President Muldrow asked, and I think Board Member Pearson might have asked. In terms of what you just asked, Board Member Simkin, I think it's also important to know that we do have pockets where absences and staffing are shorter than in other areas. Some of our schools that are identified as high needs title schools tend to have more adult absences than in other schools. So on a daily basis, the subbing requirements and the reorganization of staffing in those schools is a significant amount of work that happens. We also have some of our substitutes that, if you recall, choose where they want to attend or choose where they want to work. And so we don't always have, while we have a large number of subs, we don't always have our subs that are choosing to go into schools that would be identified more as high needs or Title I eligible. And so in those places where we have a lot of daily absences, it does cause a strain on our schools and how they reorganize staff on a daily basis. With that being said, this goes back to the conversation and the question around subbing. First semester, we had most of the teaching and learning staff and also Nancy's department that really supports student and staff supports and student services. Going out and subbing twice a week was the recommendation. While those individuals were able to identify which school or which location they were interested in, as Kurt Rose mentioned, we put them where there was also the greatest need. Sometimes if we did not have daily subs that are certified subs to go there, we put our staff. We also try to assign based on licensure. So I have a number of my staff in teaching and learning that are doing full-time or part-time positions in some of our schools to do their best to stabilize it in the content area that they are certified in. There is a small number of us, though, in the teaching and learning department. So while we are having individual sub either half days, full days, part-time in order to ensure our students are getting what they need, we don't have every certification area right now ourselves. So I just wanted to clarify that piece, that we are really ensuring that the licensure is tied to not only the greatest need, but also that content area. For the second semester, we have pulled back on the number of central office staff subbing in our schools for a variety of reasons. One, there is their own workload that they need to manage, which is really important. And we want to target where we have the highest need. I mentioned before, schools that are identified as high needs or Title I schools are not getting the staffing that they need on a daily basis. So if we do have human resources here, we want to deploy those to a fewer number of schools to do our best to help stabilize where there's real staffing challenges. I'll pause there.
And just board member Simpkin and the rest of the board members too. And over the years, and like I said, I can't speak to prior to, I was just trying to analyze the budget as I was coming in, but I do know across the country, we talk about trying to provide certain support to meet some of your, in each district, to meet some of your strategic goals. That's support for, even though they're out of the classroom, they're trying to support the classroom. And every time we have a individual who goes and sub, it also cuts back on that work that we're giving to our classroom teachers. But it could have just been a response for that particular time. So that may have contributed to our growth. But I know during the pandemic, we definitely wanted to try to hire more individuals to try to support with our implementation of what we're doing with the letters as well. I know that we're trying to have those coaches, and they are critical, providing support to the classroom teachers as well. If you're not doing that, you may shift those resources to something else and you don't need them. And then it may go back to the classroom. But I could tell you what we're trying to do with the professional development to be a classroom teachers and go through letters, that's like taking a master's course. And sometimes with our less experienced staff, our coaches serve a serious role in terms of being there with them, holding their hands, walking them through it as well. But that's one of our goals right now. It's something that we're trying to address, the reading piece. But some of the other pieces, it's just a matter of when we go through the strategic budgetary realignment, how we're going to make those priorities and so that we can move forward.
Okay, I want to thank you both for your responses. My second question is, as we are looking at challenges around filling classroom teacher spaces, are teachers continuing to give up their planning time in order to fill in for other teachers, and to what extent is that currently happening?
We do not, Board Member Simkin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, teachers are. And as a reminder that the board approved changing the rate of pay for teachers that are opting and or supporting doing that, giving up their prep period, covering a class at the secondary level, they get a different rate of pay than what the handbook has. The number of individuals that are doing that on a regular basis, I do not have that offhand. We would have to work with our payroll department to find out that number, but the pay rate that our staff are getting has increased, and it is happening, and it's probably happening more often in the schools that I just named before that have more staffing challenges than some of our other schools. Some of our schools are sitting with no staffing challenges on a regular basis and receive substitutes attending. Other schools don't. And so our teachers are definitely stepping up and covering classes and or giving up preps during that time.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Board Member Pearson.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring back a question that Nikki asked earlier, but I think because she had so many questions, it might have gotten a little lost. I know that a couple months ago, we talked about how long it's taking us to approve folks in to come in as subs. It's taking a long time, whether they are retired teachers or other educational staff. So I just would like just to know, like, how long is it taking us now to bring on teachers, like the processing time, and then the processing time for subs? I know that there was some challenges with, DPI and other kind of areas, but just an update to know like how long it's taking us.
I don't have a number, but I can get that and I can put it in the weekly update for this week. But for the retired teachers, we have a very condensed application that they use. So it's very short for that one. So that's a quick turnaround time. All the other, it's the same process. A lot of the times we see issues with the references, waiting on the references to come back. And then once we get those, then the onboarding kicks in.
So it just depends on how soon we get the references, because we do ask for 2.
Mhm.
And so that slows it up just a little bit, but I think other than that, it's just a matter of them doing, like we said, the Equifax and the Concentra, whether they have to do the TB test, they have to do TB testing, the I-9s, the onboarding, and once they get that going, it's quick. But
Mhm.
like I said, some of that has to do with making the appointments. And then also it's a collaborative effort with health services, because they have certain days that they do the TB testing.
Mhm.
So we make sure that when they do onboarding, they get all that information at once, and then they make the appointments. And then it flows pretty smoothly.
Okay. So would you say, I know that you're going to give me like the exact number or exact time frame right now, just based off of your, like looking at what you need to. Would you say that the process is shorter than previously? I would say earlier this winter, or has it been longer?
I think it's shorter.
Okay.
Because we've automated quite a bit. So like I said, a lot of the forms have been automated. There's very few that we have that you literally have to come in. Now, there are a couple that you do have to come in and show your ID, social security card, just to verify, but it's shorter.
Yeah, thank you. And I just say I appreciate the systems part that you all have been working on to ensure the process is getting a little better. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yep, and I will say Cornerstone does have that where once we get it built in, where we can tell how long it takes to hire.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, can I add on to that? If you can tell how long it takes through Cornerstone, can you give us kind of an average of how long?
No, it hasn't turned on yet. We're working to get it built in. We have the capability, we just haven't built it up yet, but we are working on it. So once we get that going, we will be able to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
One more question.
Yeah, just a really quick question. I know that it's not just only the central office staff who have been going into schools, or we're asking other folks to kind of fill in. And I don't know if this is a question for you. It might be a question for you and Cindy possibly. But I know that we're having like instructional coaches and other kind of staff who are stepping in to sub in certain classrooms. However, when it comes to some of their pay, they're not actually being paid as a teacher and such. So I guess for me, I'm just trying to figure out, I know that it was brought to my attention from some principals at some schools about just some of those staff that, are doing 2 jobs essentially, but their pay isn't necessarily matching. And so, yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Can you give me a little more detail? So are you talking about current teachers who do classroom coverage, or what are you looking at?
I know what she's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
We have like some of our instructional coaches, individuals like that who may be teachers, but then they go in and sub, and whether or not they're getting paid the sub rate as well. That's what has come to me,
Mhm.
put it like that. So did you want to speak to that, Cindy? Because they're not. And
So because instructional coaches, my understanding is they get the additive pay, which is 7% on the base. They are not eligible for the classroom coverage. I believe it is a
That's what I
handbook piece. Yeah. Per the
And that's per handbook?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
If those positions get additive pay, they do not get classroom coverage. And then they list the certain specific positions in the handbook.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah. Okay, so that's more of a handbook conversation
Correct.
that needs to be had. I mean, I think, I really do think, the fact that principals are coming to me talking, like asking me just these questions because they've asked these questions on behalf of their staff, and they're not necessarily getting the responses. My fear is that if the principals are coming forth, I'm sure their staff is coming forth. And as we are looking then to ensure that we have enough staffing, my fear is that people aren't getting paid for the work that they're doing. And I'm all about making sure people get paid for the work that they're doing. So, and that includes, central office staff and whatever, and so that's why I brought it forth, because I do think it's important to have that conversation in the open, especially because it's not just one person coming to me or like another person. It's a large group of people that are coming forth and asking that. But thank you for clarifying because I wasn't sure exactly the verbiage. So yes, it's the additive pay and for classroom coverage pay. And you guys have said it's a handbook conversation. So my hope is that y'all come back with a response and how we can ensure that folks are possibly getting paid, if that's something that we also need to work on as a board or whatnot, what the next steps would be.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. That is coming up, and our ways of communicating is not just with the teachers individual, it's a number of them who probably brought it up, and some principals. I appreciate that too. They brought it up, but it is a handbook conversation, and it's on our radar screen.
Okay.
Board Member Castro?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Cindy for talking about the distribution of absences and vacancies. You know, we see a number, let's say 200 and divided by 53, and think that they are just evenly distributed throughout the schools, but instead you see a concentration of them, particularly in title schools, where we have more students on free and reduced lunch, more Black and brown students. And so on the topic of vacancies, I'm wondering if the administration or the handbook committee have considered certain inducements for hard to fill positions in those Title I schools, you know, pursuant to achieving our framework goals.
It's a discussion we've been having. Even the question came up about the sub teachers and started during the pandemic. We've had discussions of certain buildings should have those subs. So that wasn't the first time tonight. That's been discussion we've been having. But specifically, have we determined that? No. But it is something that could be considered when you start thinking as an equity strategy too, as well. We do need to try to incentivize individuals to have stability within those schools. And then also the number of absentees from staff, you know, what schools and what does that mean to as well?
Yeah, thank you. No more questions, but yeah, to that point, just looking at rates of the turnover too, in particular Title I schools is something to monitor, and you know, what can we do about it? So thank you.
And then I took it back.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for the good questions that you've been asking. I was just going to suggest that process-wise, instead of getting some of these questions back in a weekly update, we have an operations work group in 2 weeks where we are getting an update on HR. And I'm wondering if we can wrap some of these questions and their answers into the presentation. If there are other questions that board members think of, please feel free to send them my way. And I can work with Tracy and the operations team to try to make sure that questions and sort of large scale, we can put those into categories and try to come back with answers on that in a couple weeks.
Board Member Gomez-Schmidt, I greatly appreciate that, particularly with questions where we've heard tonight that folks can get back to us with a little bit of time. Dr. Jenkins, did you want to chime in? Okay. All right. And I appreciate too the transparency of making sure that the community has heard us ask these questions tonight and deserves to know the answer to these questions. All right. Any further discussion? Joanna, your advisory vote on the HR report?
Yes, I approve.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Other reports, City of Madison Education Committee, Board Member Nichols.
Yes, at our January meeting, we continued on with the discussion of driver's education. We had somebody from the Sun Prairie Area School District, Shelley Weiss, come in and talk about how their school district is still maintaining a driver's education program. We also had Greg Markle from Operation Fresh Start come in to share how their driver's education program is set up. We decided as a committee that we're going to continue to stay with the driver's education topic, and then started thinking about who else we might want to talk to. Yeah. Our next meeting is February 8th.
Thank you so much, Board Member Nichols. Student Senate, Joanna?
Yeah, so for Student Senate, sorry, just get this open over here. On January 12th, we had the survey results that we got reported on. Oh, sorry. Okay, so on January 11th, we had the 8th grade welcome. So we had new 8th graders join Student Senate, and they're really excited to join because they're getting nominated. And there was a really good discussion with them to talk about issues that are happening within our high schools and middle schools. I talked about the BOE report. We talked about what Student Senate is, and we had a focus discussion. And then on January 25th, we had the BOE report. We had another focus discussion. We did some breakout rooms, and we had some future planning with the 8th graders to see where they want Student Senate to go this year. And our next meeting may be February 8th and February 22nd.
Thank you so much for your leadership, Joanna, and thank you for supporting our middle school students and getting them familiar with Student Senate. Safety and Student Wellness Ad Hoc Committee, Board Member Pearson.
So this month, we received and reviewed our survey responses to the survey that was sent out November 8th to all MMSD staff and families and students, grade 6 and 12. The survey was open for 1 month to take responses, where we had a total of responses of 9,549, which ended up being 591 pages of narratives. Yeah, we had to read all that. We put together a summary of those responses. In our next meeting, we will put together recommendations based off of those responses from the survey to be presented to the board during our budget process. We do have a meeting on this Thursday on February 2nd to do that. We also discussed the possible superintendent advisory panel that will work with the administration to ensure that the recommendations that may be approved by the board are implemented and to assist on ongoing work to ensure safety and wellness happens at our schools. So that's our update.
Thank
And
you.
Looks like someone has a question. No.
I believe I skipped MSCR, but is there?
You did?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, Board Member Pearson, did you say that once the safety and wellness ad hoc committee kind of concludes with their recommendations, there may be a new group formed, a superintendent's advisory?
Yes.
Is
So
that okay?
So the way that when the ad hoc first started, I think committee members wanted to know, especially the students, wanted to know how the work can continue past the ad hoc, because the ad hoc is, a limited amount of time. And then once it concludes, they wanted to make sure that it's an ongoing, like there's a process, some way that people can still be included. And so the idea was to create an advisory panel to the superintendent that possibly comprised of different people. So like teachers, community members, students, just to make sure that what will hopefully be implemented or recommended that we may approve gets implemented and such. So kind of having a continuous feedback loop from our building folks and community to the superintendent's office.
Would there be a board member on the committee?
Yes, there will be a board member on that committee
Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
or panel, sorry.
With the first safety ad hoc, with their recommendations that came to the board, there was a series of like 16 recommendations, I think, and there was also a superintendent's advisory committee that was formed to look at the implementation of those. Will this advisory committee like work with that other one, or what has happened with the first one, and will it be expanded? How will that work with both sets of recommendations, I guess, from both ad hocs?
So I would say that we did review information from previous ad hocs. So we have kind of like the historical knowledge of what's kind of been done. But this really was to focus a lot, trying to get all the responses from like young people and from families, community members, just to make sure that their voices, because the ad hoc was done a couple years ago. And since that ad hoc happened, there's been a lot of changes in our schools. So we wanted to relook at it, but we have some of the historical knowledge. And I think Dr. Jenkins was going to say something. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I
Yeah,
do appreciate
yeah,
the work
no.
of this committee and the need to continue to
Mhm.
follow through with the implementation and not just sort of have it land with a series of recommendations. So I do appreciate that part. I'm just curious how Dr. Jenkins envisions that moving forward.
Thank you.
I think right within your line of questioning, we need to make sure that we execute, but take the voices of the new committee and see what they intersect, and then we move forward with it. I think that's going to be in the best interest of all, because I think even in this particular group had more student voice. I am hearing too, then and that's valued along with the adult voices that we had. But there have been changes, as Board Member Pearson said, and I look forward to us getting together now where we are. We're in a different space and actually implementing some of the items, but not all 16 at one time, but going deep and seeing which ones we're going to prioritize and how we're going to do them right along with our budgetary process. Because you will need some resources from the first set of recommendations, and I'm anxious to look through these second set of recommendations and see what resources we need to support it, because just the ideas without any resources won't go very far.
Yes.
Further questions or discussions around the safety and wellness ad hoc? All right, my apologies, Nikki. Madison Schools and Community Recreation MSCR Advisory Committee Board Member Vandermeulen.
Yeah, yes, we are very excited. MSCR Central has officially opened. Staff moved in on January 18th and 19th. We held our January 18th advisory committee there and toured the space. I was there by Zoom because I had two meetings at the same time, but from what I've been told, it is absolutely gorgeous. Programming started on January 19th, and our early reviews for staff and participants has been positive. Our MSCR West, which is where the Stein Mart used to be by the Westtown Mall, is scheduled to open the end of May. Construction is well underway, and staff are planning a full slate of summer programs there. So far this year, MSCR served 52,698 participants, provided support for 1,563 youth and 477 adult participants with disabilities. Our next meeting is March 15th.
Thank you so much, Board Member Vandermeulen. Board Member Pearson.
I just wanted just to shout out MSCR. I had a lot of parents while I was shoveling telling me how great it was to be able to ensure that their kid got into programmings on the South Side, which historically wasn't a site for programming because they would have to drive all the way far west or far east to have access. And a lot of them just couldn't, make that work. And so I just want to say that it's a testament to ensuring that the equity piece for all of our kiddos across the city having access to the program is great. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Pearson. Board Governance Committee, Board Member Simpkin or Board Member Nichols or both?
Shall I go, Board Member Nichols? Okay. The Board Governance Committee has met once since last month. We will be meeting once more and then presenting or initiating a conversation among board members for this Friday's retreat to figure out a pathway to move forward.
Thank you both so much for that work, and I look forward to what you are bringing to our retreat this Friday. Policy Committee, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt or Board Member Castro or both?
Thank you. So we met with Neola this afternoon to start looking at the cadence of how they're going to dig into the work. They're going to start with, or they're going to go by department, starting with finance, and will bring us revisions for review, and then we'll engage in a back and forth. And then they will also take certain policies that the board has prioritized of high importance. So that work will begin in earnest this coming month, and be on the lookout for updated revisions as well as new public interfacing documents such as administrative guidelines with each policy.
And would,
Board Member Vandermillen, would you like to ask
Yes.
questions specific to Sabian
Yes.
and Board Member Gomez-Schmidt? I'm sorry, Board Member Castro and Board Member Gomez-Schmidt?
Yeah, go ahead.
will the board be able to vote on these recommendations?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll go back and forth in a red line like we usually do.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure the board still had a say in their own.
Yep.
Can I ask a question in a similar vein in terms of determining the order in which we review policy per department? Are we saying, hey, this is our priority areas in terms of the departments, or are they giving us kind of a menu and standard of how they audit policies department by department?
That would be the latter. Like you said, that's kind of how they do this standardized process.
I do think there is some room for adaptability. I mean, when we have this discussion with them, because really, I think they're centering our policy review on our staff looking at their templates and their policies, seeing how they mesh, and then working with Neola. It's not all coming from Neola first in a policy review. So that was something that was helpful to me to discuss today, to learn a bit more about how this review is going to work and how much it is driven by our staff and our work and what we want to see happen.
Thank you, Board Member Castro, and thank you, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt, for doing that work. Is there any further questions or discussion? All right. State Education Convention Report, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt.
Yes, I served as the MMSD representative to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly that happens once a year at the annual state education convention, where representatives from every school board in Wisconsin debate resolutions that are presented by different school boards to guide the WASB in their work and advocacy for representing school districts. The board guided me in December to vote in favor of all 19 resolutions, actually 18 resolutions. We had set one aside around the Foundations of Reading test. Of the resolutions that the delegation considered, 15 resolutions passed. One resolution failed, and that was the universal free school meals resolution. 3 resolutions were not addressed due to the lack of quorum by 5:30 in the afternoon. It had been a 4-hour meeting already. And these included resolutions on licensure, revenue limits, and classroom technology. And so if they don't get addressed in that annual meeting, those will have to come back to the next annual meeting next January. I just wanted to update you really quick. I did pull the resolution on that Ford exam to get more information. Thank you to Dr. McGregory, Dr. Jenkins for getting us some information and an update from UW-Madison on that, and some data from one of the state representatives who had taken a look at the different institutions around Wisconsin and their pass rates for this exam. I did ask questions at the delegate assembly and sort of made a point that this shouldn't be an either or thing. We should really encourage our institutions of higher education to make sure they're helping as many students pass this exam, while at the same time, if they're developing an alternative pathway, that it is rigorous and that it makes sure that our teachers that are coming to us pre-service are ready to teach reading, just due to the importance of this for our district and for the state of Wisconsin. So it was a good discussion, I think. And yeah, I think that will be some work going forward, continued. The general sessions for the convention, it was a 3-day conference. And I attended a session on developing board norms, on budget strategy, and superintendent evaluation process.
Thank you so much for attending on behalf of our board, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt. Yeah, it's a lot of work and you gave a lot of time to represent our district at this conference. So we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and board member Castro also attended and Dr. Jenkins was there and a number of our other staff too.
Thank you all very much.
We were well represented.
Thanks, y'all. Dr. Jenkins?
Also, I would like to say that our wind ensemble represented us very well in the state. After they performed, everyone just gave them a big hand. They were awesome. And we had parents there as well as some of our staff. But I just want to say, nice job. And I do want to just point out here, I thank you, Board Member Gomez-Smith, the way that she pushed the reading piece, pushed our district, and several of the other superintendents came up to me and said, hey, you all on fire in Madison, aren't you? You know, about the reading piece. So thank you for pushing that seriously.
All right.
Okay, moving on to other business. I move that in regards to open enrollment applications for the 2023-2024 school year, the district declares that no space is available in the LEAP or LEAP, NEON, NEON, and SBA, SBA. Primary steps, next steps, Transition Academy, and Blue Lion Micro Schools, Cell West, Campus Connect, Lake Edge Program, Memorial Neutral Site Program, High School Intensive Intervention, Early Learning Sessions, Early Childhood Intranet Services, Madison Promise, and Early College STEM Academy programs, and open enrollment applicants will not be accepted into those programs. All other special education and regular education programs, services, and grade levels will have no space limitations. Thank you. Okay, Nikki.
The last sentence of the motion does not make sense. It says there are no limitations on special education. NEON, LEAP. Next steps, the Transition Academy and Sail West are all programs that cater towards special education. You can't say that special education programs are not included and then put caps on special education program. It is something that I've argued for the past 6 years. I will lose every year, and I'm very comfortable with that. But in my opinion, you can't say we're not limiting special education by saying that only those who are already in the district we can take. We all got offended when Verona decided not to accept any more special ed students and people with IEPs. What is any different than this?
Yes, thank you, Nikki. Does someone want to respond to that? I see two people. I see. Are you asking clarification?
No, I do want to respond to what Nikki's saying.
Okay.
Like they can as well.
Okay.
And Nancy Mofender,
While she gets ready, go ahead, Ali. Do you want to say what you need to say?
So what I will say is I think that there is a difference between saying, hey, these are programs that are full with it and are full through students who are attending the district right now, that our students who are currently enrolled have a certain level of kind of a first come, first serve status when it comes to these programs. I think the expansion of these programs to accommodate students who are open enrolling in sentiment is a very beautiful idea. I think logistically, that's a really complicated thing to do due to our inability to anticipate who will open enroll into the district and what their needs will be. The other thing I'll say is there's a very big difference between acknowledging the capacity of certain programs and saying that we do not accept students with disabilities through open enrollment. I believe wholeheartedly that there's a big difference between what we're doing in terms of acknowledging the capacity of specific programs versus discriminating generally against students with disabilities and not accepting them through the open enrollment process. I think that's different, Nikki.
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Melfunter.
Can I, yes, can I ask, based on the nature of the motion, how often students open enroll into our district and specifically want to engage in these programs, are coming to our district as students with disabilities because we have these options available? Okay. Can I ask how many students open enroll into our district each year on average? Do you mind following up? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nancy's mic wasn't on, so Laura couldn't hear.
Oh. Your mic wasn't on.
So couldn't hear you. Laura Simpkins, yes.
Make sure it's on. Pull it up. Pull the little lever on the top up.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's all right. Thank you. I was wondering.
Laura, sorry. Laura, did you need me to repeat anything? I apologize.
You know what? I don't. I will watch the recording and I will pick it up from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your response, Ollie. And any other questions or any other discussion? Okay. Joanna, your advisory vote, if you're still on.
Yep, I approve.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Okay, that's 6-1. I move that the Board of Education, pursuant to the terms of the Administrator's Retirement Plan, which seeks to recognize the value of a long-term commitment to the MMSD, approve 3 applications.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Sorry, Joanna, your advisory vote.
Yep, I approve.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Looks like 7-0. There is no old and new business for this meeting. So going on to adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Joanna, your advisory vote,
Yep.
sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
Okay, it looks like we are adjourned 7-0. Have a good night, everybody. Please stay warm out there.